You're listening to the Anxious Scholar Podcast, a podcast for anxious scholars. If you're a high school student who can't wait to go to university, but also is kind of overwhelmed with lots of unanswered questions like me, then you've definitely come to the right place. On this podcast, I sit down with EJM alumni while they share valuable advice from this exciting journey of theirs that we have yet to take. I really hope you'll enjoy this episode and learn lots of useful information about the college application process, unis, and higher education in general. So hello, Guillaume.
Oh.
Thank you for agreeing to this interview. It's great to have you, and I'm really excited to hear your story and to find out what it takes to get into one of the best universities in the world for one of the hardest subjects there is. So for your case, biochemistry at Imperial. So we'll talk about your time at EJM, your academic and extracurricular achievements, your application process to Imperial, as well as your professional experience and your studies here now that you've been studying at Imperial for a month. But before you start, I was wondering if you could say a few words about yourself and your background, such as where you were born, what languages you speak.
So I'm Guillaume. I was born in Paris from French parents. My family's French. I'm in the class of 2023. I took SPE Math, Physique, SVT, but I dropped SVT in première because I thought math and physics was a more general thing and could be applied to lots of programs.
What or who inspired you to study biochemistry?
Well, I always really liked biology and chemistry separately at school. Just discovering more about the fabric of life and the fabric of matter, respectively. And I also thought it's a blooming industry with lots of opportunities, lots of things to discover. Right now in class, the professors often tell us that they don't know actually the answers to our questions because the research isn't out yet. And it really is a growing sector. Like I think that the market shares, like the share of GDP has grown like 20 times in the past 10 years or something. So I really wanted to be part of that.
The GDP of the industry?
Yes, as part of the in the UK, 10 years ago, like it only made a 20th of what it makes now. So it really shows that like there are so many startups that have been created in this sector
that are evolving it. Like for example, research, you can do medicine.
Exactly, it's pretty broad actually because you can work with plants, you can work with people, you can work with chemicals more generally.
Did you apply to other universities? And if yes, was it for the same program, so biochemistry?
So I applied in the UK to Imperial, but also UCL, Durham, Warwick, and Exeter, I think. It was all biochemistry, or I think at UCL I applied to biochemical engineering, but closely related. I also applied in Canada at McGill for bioengineering and life sciences. I applied at EPFL in Lausanne, Switzerland, for ingénierie des sciences du vivant, which is also the same thing. And I wanted to do the Bachelor de l'X, but I didn't have time to apply for it.
To do the application?
Yeah.
And if you don't mind saying, where were you accepted out of these universities?
In the UK, I was accepted everywhere. In Canada, I did not get into the bioengineering course, but I got the life sciences one. And at EPFL, I also got accepted.
And you didn't consider applying to Oxbridge in the UK?
No, I didn't actually. Well, I started to actually seriously get into the British universities a little late, so I think I kind of missed the first deadlines for Oxford and everything. And I also wanted to be in London more than outside.
And were there any like additional requirements for the application process, like interviews or exams or assignments, like essays?
For Imperial, it's quite department related. So for most departments, there are tests of maths, of physics, and whatnot. But for biochemistry, I just needed to fulfill the requirements that I got after my offer, and of course doing like IELTS tests.
That you had no problem probably doing.
That wasn't very hard.
Yeah, and you said get the requirements. I imagine academic also. So for the grades, the recommended grade is like 3 A's, right? Mm-hmm. You said that equivalents to like
16.
16.
It's about
right?
16. I think.
If you don't mind sharing, what was yours? Was it higher? Higher?
Yeah, it was higher. So my requirements were mention très bien and 16 in both math, physics, math, SVT, and chemistry. So which is actually also physics in France. And I got 18.5 for the spé I dropped, that was SVT. I got 20 in the math for the back and 18 in physics chemistry. And my general grade was higher than 16 also. So.
And for biology, which in France is called SVT, it was like your average during the year of première.
That's it. It's the average of the 3 trimesters of première.
Okay. And so, as you said, and for example, the other countries, like in Switzerland, there was also no additional requirements.
So I applied only to EPFL. There's also ETH, but you have to speak German, so I didn't apply there. For EPFL, you just have to get the mention très bien, and also 16 in physics and maths, and to do the highest possible level of math. So I think they're expecting math experts now, but it wasn't the case before.
And you didn't do math expert?
I did do math expert.
You did do it. And did you do like competitions or Olympiads during your time at high school?
I didn't do many competitions that were science related. I did do the Marathon d'Orsay in Terminale, which is a group competition I did with 2 friends, and there are problems that are sent out every month. You have to try to write a reply, send it back, and there's a ranking at the end. I also did, I was part of the Poetry by Heart contest in Seconde, and I was a member of the history club, so I participated in worldwide history balls in Première mostly.
And for the math one, it's during the year, so
it's during the year.
So you can do it in your own time.
You do it in your own time. The teachers send out an invite at the beginning of the year, and you form groups of 3. And during the year, you get a regular problems that come in, and you have to try to solve them. That's the.
And you were also a member of the Académie de Médecine des Jeunes de 2022. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it is and the research project that you did?
Yes, so it's a project that's proposed by the Académie de Médecine in Paris, and that AGM offered us to participate in. Basically, the idea is to form young people to research projects, and also to get them to know more about youth-related health issues. We had to pick between 1 or 3 subjects. There was like sports and sports injuries, bullying, and something else. We got the bullying part. So the idea was to create questionnaires related to the topic, send them out to the promo, and then compile the results and offer advice to the academy so that they could take measures to counter, so in our case it was bullying. So we did that. We presented our results, and they voted on our suggestions, which were accepted eventually. It was a very nice project to take part of.
Okay, so it's like based on the scientific method, where it's like you're doing a scientific method and research. And
that's it, because you have to both treat the data and also write up a report. It was like 15 pages or something, to answer the question, assess what problems you've encountered, solutions.
And would this be more related to like psychological health?
It was more related to psychological health, but also the day we presented our results, there were conferences given by a number of medical professionals that were related to like youth and health more generally, and that was also very interesting and enriching to be able to witness that.
Yeah. And were you prepared by the academy, like guided, or with someone from the school?
It was. The coordinator for our project was Monsieur Zajac, but otherwise, we were helped by him very much. But otherwise, it wasn't very school related. Like, the school didn't take part of that.
Okay. And it was like during a year, or
it was during about 6 months, I say.
You also interned at a tech startup that manufactures amplifiers for music instruments called High Vibe. Could you tell us more about this experience you had? It's a professional experience, like doing an internship. What did you find was beneficial in it?
Yeah, so it was an internship at High Vibe. It's a company that makes amplifiers, especially for music instruments, but also in general. And their concept is that they have very good software that allows them to treat all the background noise and the white noise that you don't want to hear in instruments. So I got this internship because I played the guitar and I was really passionate about that. And what I really took away from it was the living in the environment of a startup, where people could all fulfill very different roles actually within the startups. One day they would take care of sales, the other day they would package the products, work on software, etc. And it also gave me skills working on coding, for instance, JSTOR. We tested the products. It was very fulfilling.
And do you think it's like it was beneficial in terms of like the discipline that you want to study, like biochemistry?
Not necessarily for biochemistry, but it was more about being in a startup and like getting acquainted with what really it takes to have your ideas commercialized, to get organized, etc.
Implemented.
Yeah.
So you entered at a hospital. Could you tell us more about this experience?
Yes, so it's an internship that I got through a friend at the Hôpital Georges Pompidou in Paris, and it was in the Department of General Surgery. Because at that time I considered being a doctor, actually. I thought it was interesting. What I really liked about it was to see how science, technology, and life science and medicine work together. For instance, we saw an operation of a bowel cancer, and in real time, the surgeon could actually take a small bit of skin, send it to a laboratory, and in like 10 minutes, he could have info on whether or not the tissue had cancer cells or not in them. And I was really impressed by that, and it really gave me the desire to look more into life sciences, biotechnology, because they're extremely useful actually in modern science.
And you mentioned how you played the guitar, you did like the history club. Do you think those like extracurricular activities that weren't necessarily related to like science and biochemistry were kind of like gave value to your application?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in the personal statement, I know it's very concise, so you don't necessarily always have the chance to kind of mention them, or it's not very related to the subject. Yeah. Yeah,
no, I did mention them actually, because I think what universities are looking for is, well, students with a very, diverse interests, to really get a good student dynamic. So I did Latin and Spanish also at school. I talked about that in my personal statements. Yes, generally I tried to show my different interests. I think they value that.
And how would you say you did it? Because again, like it's pretty short, it's like 500, 1,000 words, and a lot of, for example, the guests that applied to the UK and are studying here, they said it should be really focused on the subject that you're applying for. And I wanted to ask you what you wrote your personal statement about.
So there are basically 3 parts in personal statements. The first one is like an introduction, a bit about like why you're fitted for the course. The second part is more about the topic specifically. And the third part is all of your other interests. What would you add to university life if they accepted you? So for the first part, I started with the war in Ukraine and the fact that actually biotechnology had been implemented in, for instance, grain to increase its yield, and that could actually be a helpful measure against the lacking of food, the shortages of food from that time. Then, of course, I talked about my internships. I also did an internship in a hospital that was related to biotechnology in the second paragraph. In the third paragraph, you get to talk about the sports you do, your passions, your interests, languages you speak, etc.
So the extracurriculars that you did.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And the first one, the idea that you had, like the solution proposition, it's because you're saying, oh, I'm fitted for the subject because I have these ideas and opinions about the subject.
I don't remember exactly what the instructions were.
Okay.
But basically, it's like more of a hook where you get to show that you're really interested and that you have like a personal link to the subject.
So why you should be chosen? Like
yeah, that's
why
it.
You're good.
And then you develop that in the second paragraph, which is more broadly about the subject in itself.
Like why you're interested, or describe. For example, an important part apparently is like interdisciplinarity. Like when you show the link between the subject and like you said, like situations in the world and how it's useful and important and why you want to study it. Is that what
that would be part of the paragraph mostly. But I mean, they explain very well the college counseling.
Okay, perfect. And now you've been like studying here for a month. You started. How is like the studying here? Is it not too hard? In terms of, for example, studies, but also like the environment and the school.
Well, it's very nice for now. I think the experience you get from Imperial really depends on the course you have. Some courses are very intensive from the beginning. Others gradually get more intensive. For now, it hasn't been too hard. Although the French baccalaureate does not prepare you very well for chemistry, because your time is split between like 50% chemistry, 50% physics, which means that in both of these subjects you're actually only half as good as the people who did the A levels or AB. But Imperial is a very nice environment. Lots of societies you can join for very diverse interests. I do boxing, climbing. I studied Russian as another language with their extra modules they have. I think the workload is manageable, definitely, and you can also keep a social life and keep doing other activities, sports mostly. They really encourage you to do that. And notably, you're not supposed to have too many classes on your Wednesday so that you can have time for these social events.
So yeah, the schedule like allows it.
The schedule allows it, yeah.
It's could you give us an idea of like, I mean, like at lecture hours and then independent work, of course?
Again, it really depends on the course. We have about like 3 to 4 hours of lecture per day.
Every day? Like 5 days?
Depends. I think it's going to vary throughout the year, but it's basically like 3 lectures of 1 hour each. And then you have labs, either wet labs where you actually use solutions, biological elements or whatever, and also computer labs. And I think you aim to have like a 20-hour work week. It depends on what your aims are.
Yeah.
The first year is not valued very much in the total degree. For me, it's like 7% of the total grade, because you're meant to get used to the scientific method, to new ways of studying, and also to integrate within the broader community. So
yeah, there's a core curriculum the first year, and then you specialize more. Like
yep. We have 4 modules on the first year. Mm-hmm. So that's biochemistry, cell biology, enzyme, and genetics. And then you get to pick optional modules in your second and third year. And you can also do a year abroad, which is an interesting opportunity to do research in a foreign country.
Would you want to do that?
I don't think I want to do it because for me, like Imperial, it's already kind of an international experience. But I think it's definitely valuable if you're a British citizen or
and you want to travel and go to another country. And you mentioned how there's for like an important point about preparing for subjects, especially if they're scientific and you can't go without the background in like education, like chemistry, biology. Did you do like maybe additional courses in high school for like chemistry that you said was a little bit lacking?
I did not do courses during high school related to that. I would, however, recommend, well, from my experience, that you get more into it in the weeks prior to the start of your course. Just to keep up with the level. However, they are aware that all the people at Imperial come from very diverse backgrounds and have all passed different exams, A levels, IB, OIB, etc. So they try to like level it out, and it's not too hard normally to catch up in the first weeks if you're lacking in chemistry, for instance.
Yeah, so they have the chance to catch up. It's not an issue. And for example, SVT, which is Sciences de la Vie de la Terre, biology in high school, you dropped that one. Mm-hmm. You didn't know that you wanted to do biochemistry at the time?
No, I was really hesitant in doing medicine actually at the time. But I knew, for instance, for EPFL, you have to keep physics and maths, and that was also one of my favorite options. So generally, it's easier to keep what's closest to maths, because that's what you're going to have trouble catching up with more than biology. You can basically, I think you can about catch up with the whole of première terminale biology in a couple of months without works that's too intense, whereas with math you're going to have issues.
It's fundamental, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe you mentioned it, but did you get accepted to the Switzerland school?
EPFL, yes, because their standards are actually, the way it works, it's a bit like a prépa. They accept everyone if they have mention très bien. And math experts, and 16 in math and physics. And after that, at the end of the first year, about only 50% of the people pass, and the rest are rejected. So it's kind of a different mindset. We really have to work very hard after you get accepted, and not as much before.
Oh yeah, like I can understand why it's like a prépa, because then there's like the concours where...
Yeah, that's it. It's not really a concours, but it's the same spirit. Like you have to work very hard in your first year.
During the prépa.
That's it.
During the
EPFL, to be sure that you'll actually graduate.
Out of all the years that you've been at our school, at Ecole Jeannine Manuel, who was your favorite teacher? I
might not go into naming, but I generally was very fond of teachers that taught like more the science part. It's hard to have a bond with science teachers because they tend to talk about maths more than like other things. But I really liked, for instance, history teachers very much at EGM. I think all were very... history teachers, yeah. They were all very interesting, very engaging. And science-wise, I really liked Monsieur Abou in seconde, who was my first physics teacher, and Monsieur Guérin in première also, who was my biology teacher. And they really got me curious and wanted me to learn more.
Yeah, they were my teachers last year, and I really loved them. Physique, Monsieur Abou didn't manage to convince me about physics chimie, but I did continue biology. So well, that passion was transmitted.
Success,
yeah. Do you have a piece of advice for for like seniors embarking on this new journey who are finishing high school?
Well, it's a little corny, but I say start early because I actually started pretty early. I went in like the beginning of première to the college counseling office, but then you also have to give in like regular work, looking at the universities, etc. Because I was much more focused on actual coursework, which is also important, but you have to keep the long-term view, even though there's the compo coming up and the bec blanc, etc. So I would recommend that you really manage to spend maybe an hour in the week working on that until you know exactly what university is, what your course is. I think it's important.
That's really interesting because the coursework is like your grades, of course, like the schoolwork, right? Mm-hmm. And you think 1 hour a week? But it's not like
not during the whole year. But I think like it's important to actually get seriously into it, and then if you're about done, you can go back to focusing on whatever the school asks of you. But it's a bad idea to have it just at the back of your mind, like stressing you out, and at the same time not really taking care of it, which is kind of what I did.
Okay. So get into it, like understand what you really want and what you can do. Like maximize your... Okay.
That's it. Because I mean, usually the students at the school are pretty good and they will get what they're trying to get into. I mean, like I kind of overshot the offers from Imperial because they weren't very high, and I feel like if I had more time to think about it, I might have taken a course that was more fitted. Or I mean, I like what I do, but you never know.
So you mentioned how you used to want to do medicine when you were in high school. What would you say is your dream job right now?
Interesting question. It's not very related to what I'm doing, but one of the things I really like to do in long term is become a member of the European Parliament, because I've always really been attracted to politics. But I also didn't want to study specifically political science because I feel like it's not something you necessarily gain a lot from studying. Whereas science, you can always come from science to something less sciencey, but it's harder to go the other way. And more realistically, I like to work in a biotech startup. There are lots of those in the UK and in France also, and I think it'd be very enriching to really be like at the edge of what's being discovered.
Are there like certain issues that you would want to bring solutions to, like diseases, problems, or just for now it's broad, like biotech?
Yeah, I don't really know for now. The good thing about our program is it's pretty vast, actually. It covers a wide range of...
So you will discover the issues.
So I think I will get more into that, yeah.
Last question. What does success mean to you?
I think success is managing to keep a good balance between fulfilling work, meaningful relationships, and whatever you do on this side. It's managing to keep a balance between all these different elements of life that will eventually tire you. I mean, if you don't manage to keep this equilibrium, you will get very tired and you will burn out. So I think success is it's being a humanist person with well versed in lots of domains and being able to keep different parts of your life fulfilled.
Thank you for tuning in on this episode of the Anxious Scholar podcast. See you in 2 weeks for the next interview, and don't miss out on any additional information on our Instagram @The Anxious Scholar.